survival games might just be the umbrella genre that's the most fun to play with friends. I don't know, something about the emergent situations that come from survival, you know, the open worlds, the sandbox nature. There's just so much room for creativity and for dumb stuff to happen, yeah? And sometimes it's tragic, but you know what? Those are still stories to tell too. If you want to play with your friends, have those memories be made, well, here's a list of the top 5 upcoming new co-op survival games that should be releasing early access later this year and as well playable in 2022. So I'm stupid excited about these. I'm all about, you know, this channel playing with friends. So join me in my Discord as well. Subscribe, like, so that you know whenever a stream actually happens. Keep the hype alive. But here we go. I distilled like 10 upcoming survival games because you know they're always there. They're always on the horizon. But this time, actually, legitimately, there's some weird games. Like you think you've seen it all. It's like, oh, zombies, gotta punch trees. No, dude, there is some crazy stuff about to go down in this list, so definitely stay tuned all the way through. You're gonna find something that you've never seen before, and if you did, absolutely let everyone know in the comments below. But much love, guys. Let's get into this run. Alright, so the first game that I want to talk about is Breakwaters. And Breakwaters' main gimmick is that it's water traversal based. It's about island living, island life, and it's going to be mostly focused around water. Imagine that. Game called Breakwaters. So water physics, that's really what separates it. It's water physics. There's gonna be tidal waves. There's gonna be like, you know, low tide, high tide, stuff like that. And you're gonna be manipulating this actually, maybe making troughs, maybe making canals, things like that, especially with farm mechanics. Who knows how deep this game can actually get. But then especially beyond that, sailing, islands, water physics, this is all gonna play actually with freaking kaiju fights. In fact, there was recently like a Mario release of like Bowser's Fury. Yeah, where it's like you gotta run around islands and he's like doing giant kaiju stuff while you're trying to do that. Basically that, but a whole ass game that's a survival situation that you can play with your friends. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. I think this is gonna be a really fun like week-long style game. We'll see where it further develops, but I think the gimmick alone is really cool. I myself had so much fun sailing in Valheim, even though it's so subtle, just little waves just knocking you against rocks and stuff like that, actually awakened me. And I realized, wait, we don't have many survival games that deal with the ocean, especially that's multiplayer, that is actually about island hopping and, you know, proper sailing. So there's like 2, maybe. Most of them have kind of negative reviews. So Breakwaters, definitely look forward to you, and hopefully you are too. And next on our list, we have Small Land. Small Land is a game that really caught my attention because it looks a lot like Grounded, but then actually beyond that, it seems like it maybe is a little bit more RPG. It might be a little bit more for a mature audience, and it might be a little bit, I don't know, I don't want to use the word hardcore, but maybe kind of. It might actually be a bit more substantial. So it's going to directly compete with Grounded. Keep that in mind, and I think that's pretty much how I can explain this game. You're a small little, almost, I think there's like fairy-like elements to the game. There might be some sort of pseudo magic or soft magic in the game. We'll see, but in the end, yeah, it's going to be Grounded, but like Ferngully-ish, possibly, and then also a little bit more on the action side. Hopefully we can get a little bit more into like a grotesque and like more survival-esque vibe going with this game versus Grounded's more fun and friendly for the whole family kind of thing. So I think these two games are going to compete directly. Hopefully though, they'll capture different audiences, but overall the imagination is definitely there of be real small, world real big. I've always been a fan of that ever since, what was it, Mario 3 with like the super giant world? I don't know, those kind of concepts are pretty cool to me. So what about you? What do you guys think? Should we have more survival games where we're just small soldiers? That's actually a thing coming up. Or, you know, like microscopic in some sort of way, maybe evolving little parasites, you know, through a giant world or something. That could be cool. I would love a spore survival game. Let's make it happen. Anyways, don't got too much to say about this game because it's like Grounded, but a little different. Still, I don't mind it. No, actually, I think it's a really good attempt. I think they're similar ideas. I don't think it's copy-paste, and I do think that this one is going to be pretty good. It's either going to be Grounded or this one. One of them is going to come out the winner, and I think either way, play both of them. They're probably going to be a good time. Halfway on the list, we have a survival game that is so survival gamey, if that makes sense. It is, at the same time, something that at first glance is something you've seen a million times, just an amalgamation of different mechanics, and then also, when you actually get into the game, will have a gameplay loop pretty unique to itself. So you're gonna get in and maybe you're gonna punch trees. Maybe you're gonna go get some sort of resource, what have you, but the way that you go about doing this is pretty different. So it's gonna be a session-based survival game, which maybe reminds of like Deep Rock Galactic, but mixed with the forest. So you're gonna be going into different zones and mining and getting these different resources, encountering different bad guys, sure, whatever, different weather effects, you know, maybe you're in the tundra, it's snowstorm, stuff like that. blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, survival game stuff and things. But then you are trying to survive and escape from the session. You have a certain amount of time before you actually need to evacuate. You need to escape to survive and then go back to your outpost and actually use those resources to build your main base in the general normal world, which I think is really interesting. Normally, you do have just one set world that you kind of explore or spiral out from your main base. Like Don't Starve, Minecraft, and literally every freaking game ever, but Minecraft actually meshed with, alternate universes, I guess, like the Nether, the End, stuff like that. But what if you had a whole game that had just bunches of different biomes that you can always jump to, from the Arctic to the desert to this and that, and you're just teleporting around, and you constantly have procedurally generated zones to actually play through. You always have like a set adventure that you just go on and set out on. And this game is PvE focused for up to 8 players, and generally games that do that, such as like Valheim, or maybe you played Minecraft, or even the single player games like, I guess, The Forest, even though that could be co-op in Subnautica. A lot of PvE focused survival games tend to be extremely highly reviewed and well beloved, so I think Icarus's focus is going to make it a good game, at least a decent chance at that. But also with the session-based gameplay, hopefully, and with the aesthetic that I'm looking at, it's going to be a little bit more hardcore and challenging, and does actually push us to survive in really unique, challenging situations. But also because of the graphic art style and everything, you can tell that it's sort of based on the American Northwest or American geography. Keep in mind though that this is just, oh my god, so prime Cub Scouts, man. Okay, but one thing is going to be alien. This takes place in like outer space. This is a whole new universe, so there's probably going to be lots of little surprises, lots of little gimmicks and things and unique resources to actually gather with this game. So at first glance, I know it looks like a generic survival game, but the way we actually play through this is pretty unique, and hopefully you guys all give it a shot. Number 2 on the list, we're getting really hyped now. We got V Rising. This one's super weird because it is a vampire action RPG PvE and PvP survival game. So you are actually like a newly risen vampire, or re-arisen, I don't know, you awoken somehow, and you need to rebuild your castle. You got to build up your empire. You're going to be raiding and pillaging PvE humans, and there's going to be monsters and all sorts of usual sort of Diablo-ish style, encounters, bosses, and things like that. But this is from the developers actually of Battlerite, so you can expect probably the most action-based action RPG you've ever had. And I do like that there is this sort of incongruency with the PvP and the PvE, where you do specific invasions of other people's castles, which they themselves build. Something that's really big in survival games, and games like Rust, is specifically building bases and base invasions and how to destroy bases and stuff like that. Super cool, but you do have that focus, and then you also have the general like diving dungeons and cooperative gameplay, so it's not too merged or meshed or PvEVP, which, stuff like Ark is, and that kind of ruins it for some players, so then you just have PvE servers and then PvP servers. This game, it looks like it's going to separate it by itself. We'll see how that actually all turns out, but in the end, freaking vampires? That's different, and also vampire unique survival mechanics, such as daylight, needing blood and certain resources. And then it's also like Diablo, so it's like if Diablo was a survival game, that then you also invaded other people's castles. I don't know, that's pretty much, I guess that sums it up. But in the end, that's pretty different, especially being isometric. Though we are seeing much more isometric survival games, especially since Don't Starve, my favorite at the moment. But V Rising, it's pretty cool, man. I'm really excited for this, just the polish and everything. And I haven't played a really good ARPG in a little bit. So I think ARPGs have always been grim, dark, and kind of horrific. I think that really works for a survival game setting. Now, before we go to our number 1, I do have an honorable mention I want to shout out, and that is Don't Starve New Home. So if you haven't played the OG Don't Starve, or Don't Starve for mobile, or even Don't Starve Together, which is always on sale and a freaking amazing game, those games tend to be kind of challenging. Maybe you didn't think it was for you. Maybe you just thought that, oh, it's just a generic survival game. It is probably the most survival game out there. It is incredibly challenging, but it looks like Don't Starve New Home is going to be kind of like Don't Starve Together, but because it is multiplayer, you do actually play in a server, but it looks like a little bit more Care Bear. There's more systems in place for maybe storytelling as well as safety nets. Like you're not just going to erase your world constantly over and over again. And it looks like you're going to be going on set adventures, kind of like what we mentioned with Icarus, and then you go back to your home, I guess, and then you can build that up and almost Animal Crossing it up. It's probably going to be like a very dark actual survival focused Animal Crossing kind of thing going on, seemingly. I don't know, I'm very interested to see the lore actually expand with this, but do know it's not actually developed directly by Cly, but I think in the end this is still going to be a cool addition. I just wanted to shout it out, definitely deserves an honorable mention. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, we are finally at number 1, and we have Bitcraft. Bitcraft, frankly, looks like it's going to be nearly directly competing with the new MMO Palia, but this is more so a survival game than Palia. It seems like this is also going to be a community simulator, a village building / kingdom operations style game that actually goes a little bit above and beyond that, where it starts out as a survival game where you spawn in a procedurally generated world. Everyone spawns apart from each other and they have to congregate into villages, and then you have to work together to survive, cut down trees, and build and craft and trade. But then you're actually surviving together as a village, and then an empire, and then building up, and then who knows where it goes from there. But apparently it's going to have city management features, and it's inspired by stuff like Grand Strategy or 4X's, where there might be like politics and things that come into play. So normally survival games kind of stop boots on the ground, or pretty much like Cub Scouts kind of era of crafting and playing, but then going into city craft and going into I guess like the whole idea of world crafting, or politics and empire crafting, that goes a little bit deeper. Survival as a village, survival as a cooperation normally doesn't go that deep, and Bitcraft can only do that because it's going to be a full-blown survival MMO. For once, for real, actually, not just a bunch of people that maybe happen to be in a server, but people working together, and then multiple villages of multiple communities coming together to make a greater world experience. So I'm really excited about that. Again, Palia is trying to do something similar, but it seems more Care Bear. There's also a few other MMOs that seemingly are trying to tack on survival elements, such as New World, sure, whatever. But in the end, Bitcraft is the one that seems the most pure, and the one that I'm going to put up here, and really the one that inspired this whole list. I'm so excited to co-op and play with you guys inside of Bitcraft. But honestly, guys, that actually kind of goes for all these games. I want to play all these with you. So please click the link in the description to join my Discord, saying hello, hi. We play games a lot together, and make sure to subscribe so when I stream here on YouTube, play games, you can just jump in, be like, hey, dude, I see you're playing Guild Wars 2, let me play. I'm like, yeah, dude, let's go. Anything, but yeah, especially co-op survival games. I've got more lists like this coming out, like just in general, my favorite. Spoiler alert, I freaking love Don't Starve. But yeah, there's actually a lot of underrated games I want to shout out, and there's just so many titles that I want to review and get out there so you guys know, yeah, it's worth playing, yeah, it's worth keeping your eye on, and yeah, let's all jump in and have some fun together. Friends and family, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys found some new games to look forward to. These were my top 5 plus honorable mention new co-op survival games for 2022. Much love. I'll see you in the next one.